Has Trump whispering run its course? Asked the departing Keir Starmer, who famously brought that letter of invitation from the King of England to the Oval Office, or Hungary's ousted leader Viktor Orban. And how about that very public breakup with the only European leader invited to Donald Trump's second inauguration last year? Beyond the spat over whether Italy's Giorgia Meloni begged the U.S. president for a selfie at last week's G7 summit, there's the growing divide between Rome and Washington over trade, Ukraine, Greenland, Israel, Lebanon, and the war in Iran. On that score, some still stick to Trump whispering, like the NATO Secretary General, who before a show-and-tell display of flattery in the Oval Office on Wednesday, told Fox News that Italy had allowed 500 U.S. planes to take off from bases as part of Operation Epic Fury. We'll ask if the Italian Prime Minister lied about her refusal to actively take part in the campaign against Iran, and more broadly, about Meloni's tack towards the pro-EU mainstream, patching up sometimes testy relations with neighbor France, and getting a red carpet welcome this Thursday from Emmanuel Macron at an overdue bilateral summit in the French Riviera town of Antibes. Why the shift? Is it the end of the whole of the European far right's MAGA envy? Remember that 2027 is an election year, both here in France and in neighboring Italy. Today in the France 24 debate, we're talking about divorce Italian style. With us from Rome, Pietro Forti, political reporter with Will Media. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.
Thank you so much.
Journalist Anna Bonalume, whose latest documentary, The Case of Meloni, recently aired on French public broadcaster France Télévisions. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And Richard Verdi, columnist and correspondent for Swiss news outlet Blick. You're the author in French of That America That Hates Us, based on your road trip in the United States last year. Soon to be translated into English?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. By the way, you can always listen. That's right. Listen to the France 24 debate wherever podcasts are streamed. His constant, unprovoked attacks are senseless. Those are the words of Giorgia Meloni in the wake of the G7 summit in the French Lake Geneva resort of Evian-les-Bains. It all started with a cold call to the U.S. president from the White House correspondent of Italian TV channel La Sette.
How is your president doing? How is she doing?
Well, she just met you at the G7. What did you make of her?
What did she say when she met me? No, I loved it.
Well,
what did she say?
Well, she's obviously very happy and proud to have a friend.
That I talked to her.
Yeah.
She's happy that I talked to her.
Yeah, on the little couch. Yeah.
But she wanted my picture so badly.
Yeah, what do you make of it? What do you think of all the...
I don't know. She asked me, she begged me for a picture. I wouldn't have done it, but I felt sorry for her.
What would you... Oh, I understand.
Of course, that sparked a rapid response last Saturday from the Italian PM, who took to social media.
Well, some things deserve an immediate response. Donald Trump's statements are completely made up. I'm frankly astonished. I don't know why the President of the United States behaves like this towards his allies. It's not the first time, moreover. I can only say it's disappointing that he doesn't show the same determination with the enemies of the West and of the United States, whose leaders he instead treats with far greater indulgence. There's only one thing he should remember. Neither I nor Italy ever beg.
The enemies of the United States, of course, Pietro Forti, she is referencing Russia in this case, it seems. And that was music to the ear of lots of people from the mainstream who are taking more and more of a liking to Meloni. Were you surprised by that statement?
Actually, I wasn't, because Meloni has been pretty consistent in her support to Ukraine and against Russia and in her position against Russia. So I think that was kind of consistent with their political stance over the years. And I think that Meloni kind of paved the way for people like Jourdan Bardella, who is kind of taking that same stand against Russia. That is kind of news for Rassemblement National, I would say. And that kind of political statement by Meloni was surprising to me, just because it was the first time she actually reacted to some attacks made by Trump. He already did say something against Meloni in an interview with a political correspondent from Corriere della Sera, Viviana Mazza, and actually it was even harder. It was hitting Meloni even harder in that interview, and this was the first time that Meloni kind of embraced the fight with Donald Trump and said, "We don't ever beg. We don't ever beg" is a strong sentence from a political leader who tried throughout the term of Donald Trump to be like this, like a bridge-like figure between the EU and the US administration. And she lost not only a strong ally in the sense of political relations between Italy and the US, but she also lost a political ally. That's I think the worst part for Meloni in all of this.
Anna Bonalume, listening to Pietro there, it sounds like this is definitive, that there's no going back. Is that the case?
Giorgia Meloni is used to going on and back because she changes her mind, and today she will meet Emmanuel Macron in Antibes, one of her best enemies from a diplomatic point of view. So she will change, of course, her mind many times. But today it's this is a very tough time for her, because Meloni had built her brand as a Europe's bridge to Trump. So since 3 years, she was the only EU leaders at his 2025 inauguration. She was really in a good relationship with Trump. She was the bridge between Europe, and she was considered the bridge between US and EU. But we need not to forget that she lost she's weak. She got weakened since the loss of the referendum on justice. So she's getting in the polls. She's not as strong as before, and she understood that the relation with Trump is a problem for the good relation with Trump is a problem even in internal politics. Because Italians, since 2 years, they don't like Trump's administration politics.
So Anna, which is it? Anna, which is it? Is it an evolution of her position, or is this, as you said at the beginning of your answer, a flip-flop?
Yeah, I guess that now is time to take some distances from Trump, because she sees that she cannot stand the demand, the requirement, the requests from US. So the backing US in the Iran's conflict, and other demands from Trump. And so now she needs to show the crash with Trump, and to make it like a show, like Trump's politics is, and right now, and so now Trump, it's like an obstacle. And so right now she's standing with Europe. She shows herself close to Macron and Europe, because she knows that when it comes to business and to economics, she needs to be European, pro-European. So right now she is pro-European, but we don't know in 1 year during the campaign what she will show, what will be their alliances.
Yeah, and we'll raise the curtain on that campaign in a bit. Richard Verly, I heard on a podcast this week, one panelist suggesting that what Meloni did in that social media post that we saw earlier could be a blueprint for the incoming UK Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, that this is the way you handle Donald Trump, that it's not too good to show too much fealty?
Well, it really depends on the circumstance. First of all, I was in Evian at the summit. I was certainly not with the leaders in the same room, but we, the journalists, we were all trying to understand and to learn what Meloni exactly said to Trump. You remember those images in Evian? We see Meloni talking to Trump. Apparently he's not too happy with it, but we still don't know exactly what she asked for. Trump has said that she asked for a selfie. She said it's not the case. She's not begging for a selfie. So what did she have that made Trump so, I would say, so angry or at least unhappy?
Do you feel as though because she sort of hints at Russia in that answer that we played, that it had something to do with that upcoming NATO summit in 2 weeks?
No, I think it had to do with the fact that, everybody was kind of trying to accommodate Trump in Evian. And Macron's strategy was to make sure that Trump's bomb, grenade, would not explode. So he attended all the sessions. So Trump expected flattery. So apparently what she said was not a compliment. She probably either asked something or made him a remark that he didn't like. Anyway, when you talk about a blueprint, it really depends on the matter you are talking with Trump. Macron chose the flattery way because he wanted his summit in Evian to go quiet, to be a success, and he wanted to invite Trump to Versailles. And at the end, for sure, he got the signing of the treaty, the agreement, the memorandum of understanding between the US and Iran. So Macron was all about, please, Donald, you are marvelous, Donald, stay quiet. For Meloni, she decided to irritate him at some point, and I believe
she decided to irritate.
Well, I think she said something, but because she has that spark, that media spark, she understood that she could take the light, she could catch the light, and she caught the light. Now, when she will have to deal something politically with Trump, when things will get serious, she will probably go back to Macron's way. Everybody knows now, from Mark Rutte in Nato to whoever in Europe, that the only way to get something out of Donald Trump is to flatter him.
Let's talk about Mark Rutte. In a Wednesday interview with Fox News, the NATO Secretary General downplaying the refusals of the likes of France, Italy, Portugal, and Spain to actively participate in that US-led war against Iran.
There's more to this than the isolated cases, and sometimes that gets a bit lost now, I think, in the discussion.
Reuters write-up, but you add to that the Italian Prime Minister, who has now had a back and forth about the use of bases in Italy. So the President, I think, is pointing to that, right?
I think so, yes, you're right. And I totally understand the disappointment. But when you take, for example, Italy, 500 US planes took off from US bases in Italy to support Epic Fury. So this is massive.
With friends like Mark Rutte, who needs enemies, Richard?
True. Well, Mark Rutte, in a way, he has no choice. He has an alliance to hold. He is the Secretary General of NATO, and NATO will have its annual summit in Ankara beginning of July from the 6th to the 8th. So Mark Rutte is in a way in the same position as Macron. He has only one obsession for his summit to go on, and for the Trump
Did he have to do that show and tell display in the White House where he showed this,
I believe that he considered that this is only way to make sure that Trump will come to the summit and Trump will not make his summit explode. Now, we'll see whether it's successful or not. It might be more difficult for NATO than G7 because as far as NATO is concerned, Trump wants money out of the allies. And they will have to pay, and some of them are still reluctant to pay, namely Spain.
All right, Meloni getting it from the opposition after that statement by Mark Rutte on Wednesday, be it the left or her populist predecessor, Giuseppe Conte, who accused the Italian premier of lying. NATO's spokesperson confirming that Rutte's remarks were in fact about, quote, logistics or technical support. That confirms the statement that was put out by the Italian defense minister, in which it's written that the government authorized exclusively technical and logistical non-kinetic activities, and referring to those 500 U.S. planes that took off from U.S. bases, Pietroforte, even though the Italian Prime Minister made a very public display of saying that Italy was not enabling the war against Iran. So did she lie?
Actually, right now, like 20 minutes ago, the defense minister, Guido Crosetto, put out a statement that said that that was the lowest that it ever came off Italian bases. That 500 planes was the lowest in all the last years, like from 1997 on. And so this was like it was really messy coming from Mark Rutte towards the Italian government. It really wasn't a good game from Mark Rutte towards the Italian government, because actually what you can see is that Meloni didn't want to come out as strong against Trump and the Trump administration and Operation Epic Fury in the first months of the operation, but then said that was a bad war for all the economies in Europe and for the Italian economy in particular. So when Mark Rutte makes a statement like this, knows that Meloni won't take it well. So it was really hard for me, especially, to understand why Mark Rutte did that, actually.
Yeah, is it I mean, it sounded when we listened to that clip as though he really was throwing Meloni under the bus.
It was, because we heard a few minutes ago that the only way to approach Trump was flattery. And that didn't work out well for Meloni, as you can see. That didn't work out well for Ursula von der Leyen about tariffs. And so right now, Meloni is trying a different game, and the Italian government is trying a different game towards NATO. And the fact that you mentioned that Trump basically wants cash right now, allies needs to cash in to keep going in the alliance. And actually, this is very difficult for Italy, and it is difficult for France as well, because these two countries have huge debts. And the fact that Italy won't be able to spend as much won't be perceived well either by Rutte and by Trump. And so I don't see this coming back to a bridge status like we heard before. This will only get worse, in my view.
Anna Bunalumi, this is a tricky one for Italians, because unlike the French, who kicked out the U.S. military presence here in 1967 under General de Gaulle, there are Italian bases in Italy, U.S. bases, excuse me, in Italy. Those U.S. bases provide thousands of jobs for the local economy. So how much you can push back against the United States is always difficult if you're the Italian leader.
It always has been the case since the Second World War. So this is why also all of our prime minister kept ties, strength ties with the U.S. administration, no matter what was. So yes, of course, the defense, Italian defense, it depends on the American military system. And this is why also France is much more free. Macron's France is much more independent. And Macron, this last month, was able to be clear and have a clear diplomatic attitude towards American administration. Now, Meloni understands finally that she needs to be independent and to invest in defense. And the Europe of defense prized by Macron these last years is the only solution, or the clear solution for Europe to stand to the defense issues in the next years, since the United States are disengaged. Of course, in this situation, what is interesting is that that Meloni, who wanted to show herself as a bridge, shows her weakness, and Macron, thanks to Versailles meeting, has stressed the fact that diplomacy is the only way, and to make diplomacy it's hard work, and it's not like being at the same table as Trump and discussing with him like a friend, because of course the American president showed that he can get rid of any allies when he feels that it's over. Of course, the Versailles meeting was very important, and one of the main diplomatic moments which will prepare the NATO meeting in Ankara.
Yeah,
the Versailles moment is the image of this new relation between France and Trump. And if we can say that maybe Macron is not the whisperer, but is the one who hosts, the host who keeps the line open today between Europe and the States.
Yeah, so to be able to work on diplomacy, you need to also have some good old-fashioned hard power to display. Just to set the mood, a few hours ahead of that summit in Antibes this Thursday, the French president tweeting out the news that his navy had intercepted another sanctioned shadow tanker, the Deliver, on its journey from the Russian port of Primorsk. It was intercepted, well, just off the coast of Sicily. Richard Verly, again, with the optics going into that NATO summit in 2 weeks, but intercepting this shadow tanker off Sicily, also a nod to Giorgia Meloni in a way?
Well, it has to be clear whether the French Navy intervened after informing the Italians or not. My understanding is that they probably shared information because they have the same goal. Meloni has been very straight while supporting Trump. She has not changed her mind on supporting, Zelensky, apologies. She supported Ukraine. She never flinched. Trump would have probably expected that she would somewhat move away from Ukraine, but she did not. Though in her government, some part of her coalition are pro-Russian. I'm thinking especially of the other leader, Matteo Salvini, who is a Putinian, we may say. So we'll see.
And whose party, by the way, sits in the same group in the European Parliament as the National Rally of Marine Le Pen.
Correct. My take on that at the moment is that Giorgia Meloni, who is a keen politician, understands that she has a card to play as a strong European country leader. When President Macron announced this evening the possibility of an Italian-French force in Lebanon, that is quite a dangerous mission to undertake. Sending Italian troops, they are already there under the UN flag. But if they don't have the UN flag anymore, it will be a completely different thing for the French and the Italian.
Let's listen on that point to Emmanuel Macron speaking just a short while ago in Antibes.
France and Italy are two major contributors to UNIFIL, and together with the President of the Security Council, we want to launch a coalition on the post-UNIFIL framework in coordination with the EU and the UN to strengthen the sovereignty of Lebanon and its armed forces and to prevent its territory from becoming a flashpoint for regional escalation.
So a dangerous mission, like you say. France's President was keen to always put Lebanon on the agenda during that G7. France and Italy, who've, by the way, both had UN peacekeepers from their countries who've died in Lebanon these past months.
And it fits with Giorgia Meloni Mediterranean agenda. She's been very keen at visiting countries, the other side of the Mediterranean. She has good links, good relation with Algeria, good relation with Morocco, Tunisia as well. So I think she sees herself as the Mediterranean leader. And that mission in Lebanon, if it takes place, it's not sure yet, will be an important milestone for Italy in terms of regional influence. Don't forget also that Meloni is making a simple calculation. In few months, Emmanuel Macron will not be there. There will be another French president, and she will be, hopefully for her, if she is re-elected, she will be in a strong position because she will be the veteran in the room when she meets the new French president.
All right. Back in April, when Giorgia Meloni showed up at the French presidential palace in an Alfa Romeo that matched her red outfit, the Italian PM, well, she seemed almost caught off guard by the warmth of the embrace. There you see that Alfa Romeo. It's not the sports car version, but still. Of the warmth of the embrace she got on the steps from Macron. They didn't have those kinds of embraces back in 2022 when he was rueing her rejection of a migrant ship, for instance. Who would have thought that when the pair openly rowed back then, Macron would today be playing tour guide at the Picasso Museum in Antibes? The first of these annual summits under the Franco-Italian Quirinale Treaty was due to start in 2023. But Pietro Forti, I guess better late than never?
Yeah, obviously, and right now, Meloni has kind of to flick to supporting Macron in the last year of his presidency, and to set whatever would be the relationship with the next president of France. And I also think that the fact that they started to collaborate more on Lebanon kind of fits in the idea that Italy needs to have troops on the ground as a mean of diplomacy. It is never a matter of interest. It's never a matter of leverage. It's always a matter of prestige for Italy to have troops on the ground, because that's the only thing that Italy can offer in a way. We have a huge military complex named Leonardo, but we don't really have that much infrastructure to offer. And as you said, most of the defense in Italy is guarded by the US. So right now, whatever Meloni can do to get closer to Macron really plays well with the Italian government.
And we're thinking about the Italian electorate, Pietro Forti, particularly the younger voters. Back in October of 2023, when there was the attack from Gaza, both Macron and Meloni squarely behind Israel. The position begins to change as the war drags on and the number of civilians killed increases. Today in Italy, is it just a political loser to defend Israel?
Absolutely, yes. The only party that's standing strongly with Israel right now is the Italian League, the same party from Matteo Salvini, who is standing with Russia. So not a lot of wise decisions, I would say, on the international political scheme. But I would say that right now, the war, Italy is one of the worst places to be supporting Israel right now, because I've seen a poll the other day that said that Italians are the ones who most support sanctions against Israeli settlers in the West Bank. We are the country that most supports sanctions. Maybe because we were one of the only two countries with Germany to vote against the fact that the EU shouldn't be breaking in the commercial relations with Israel. And right now, Meloni has softened her support to Bibi Netanyahu's cabinet, and for the first time, she's talking about sanction both Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir. Itamar Ben-Gvir, let me just say this and then back to you, recently made a video with Italian activists provoking them while they were on the ground with their hands tied, and that really didn't come out well with the Italian public. Meloni responded, Italian President Mattarella responded, pretty much all the political spectrum in Italy responded very badly. And so right now, it is not the time to support Israel if you're close to an election that may be in April, as soon as April in Italy.
Wow, so that would be just perhaps the same month even as the French would be going to the polls, or at least in the last weeks of their campaign. Meloni, who during this term, that again began in late 2022, proved astute in weakening far-right coalition partner Matteo Salvini, who we've talked about. But since February, she's got a new worry, one that Anna was alluding to earlier. Former Army General Roberto Vannacci quitting Salvini's Lega party, the member of the European Parliament forming the Futuro Nazionale party. And so it's kind of, Anna, like what we've seen over in the UK, where Nigel Farage, as he's tried to distance himself from Trump, also has to watch his right flank. There's now a right to the right of the far right in Italy?
Yes, it is a political character that is quite similar to the French. The French far-right Marion Maréchal, that is at the same, shares a bit the same position towards LGBT community or in migration. What we should remind is that Giorgia Meloni herself, she won the elections thanks to a very clear position held during the, many years before the elections. That is the opposition. She was the only politician who was at the opposition against Mario Draghi and against the other parties which held Italian politics before. And now Vannacci is trying to adopt the same strategy as Giorgia Meloni herself adopted before winning the election. Being at the opposition with very clear far-right statements, defending anti-European positions, pro-Russian and pro-migration positions. And he hopes that since the Italians get very
that they have incumbent fatigue.
Unhappy.
So if they get incumbent
they're very unhappy about.
Right.
Yes, they're getting unhappy about the present government, and he hopes that next year the same dynamics which happened during the 2022 election will happen again, thanks to his position that is the opposition to Meloni's government and very far-right
so Anna,
topics, quite classical far-right topics.
So Anna, let me ask you to take out your calculator for a second, because what we see is that, of course, one of the other big differences since 2022 is that the traditional right wing lost its leader with the death of Silvio Berlusconi. So if Giorgia Meloni covets that position in the center, does she get more votes than she would lose by foregoing the far right?
Yes, she should be able to, as many analysts stressed since 2 or 3 years since she won the election, she should be able to be clear in her positions, to introduce herself in Italy as a Christian democratic leader, as Silvio Berlusconi in a way was a center-right that is quite moderate and well perceived by European elites. And so she should be able now to take distances from Trump, from very hard migration policies, and to be able to be the center-right leader, to get votes from the right and from the left, as Berlusconi did during many years in Italy. But we should see if she's able to make this transition, to make this changing in such a time, because she's very well identified as a far right or right leader in Italy. So she should be able to make some major changes, and let's see if she will be.
So let me just very briefly, because we're running short on time. Pietro Forti, can she make that sort of transition seamlessly in next year's elections? Do people in Italy say, yeah, okay, she's not the same Giorgia Meloni that she was 10 years ago?
I don't know if that's a good strategy, actually. She got in her seat right now by being Giorgia Meloni, and people right now are flocking to Roberto Vannacci and Futuro Nazionale for that exact reason right now. They want a hard stance on immigration. They don't want green jobs. They don't want any green transition. They don't want actually to be allied with Trump. One of the things that really stands out with Roberto Vannacci is that he's even more pro-Russian than Matteo Salvini is. Right now, he's an ally of AfD in France, in Germany.
In Germany.
And the fact that Roberto Vannacci is trying to take her place really tells you a lot about what you should expect from Giorgia Meloni in the next year. She already started with some little things, some cultural wars, to get on the right side of Italian politics again, after years of being the moderate of the coalition. And right now, Meloni is trying also to strengthen the Italian position on migration, but no one right now in the position Meloni is in, that is the position of Italian Prime Minister, can do anything more than trying to administrate what Meloni immigration towards Italy is. We are a peninsula in the middle of the Mediterranean. We will never get less migrants unless we start shooting at the boat. And that's what she said, actually, in the first years of her career. We should take down boats right away. Obviously, she's changed position by then, but she has Vannacci on her right that's saying that stuff, and that's pretty hard.
All right, so as we're hearing from this conversation, Alicia Verdi, over in Italy, whatever happens next year, it's all about being able to form a coalition. Nobody's going to win an outright majority. Here in France, it's different because it's a presidential contest. And we saw that when it came to, again, all these issues of how far you tack to the right, how much that you identify your brand with that of Donald Trump. We've talked about it on this show before. Last year, the president of Marine Le Pen's far-right national rally drew heat for on a TV show where he showed fawning admiration of Donald Trump. Today, both Jordan Bardella and Le Pen have since pivoted when it comes to the Donald.
Well, I think we've been talking about Meloni. Whatever Giorgia Meloni is doing, takes into perspective the fact that Donald Trump is now becoming unpopular in Europe. Don't forget that. When she was talking about being the bridge between Europe and the US, at that time, about a year ago, Donald Trump was rather popular. He was the new president. Orban was the prime minister of Hungary. Robert Fico in Slovakia was very much pro-Trump. But since then, the wind has changed. The direction has changed. And she's blowing with the wind, we may say, Giorgia Meloni. Now she realized that whoever supports Trump might get a backlash from the electorate. So she's distancing herself from Trump. And in a way, she's doing what maybe, you're right, the Rassemblement National will do during the campaign. She's trying to aggregate her extreme right voters to the center-right voters. And that is one of the questions during the French presidential campaign.
Let's pick up on something that Pietro Fotri said, which is how people identify the brand and whether that brand is consistent. I'll ask the question about France. Let's listen to Marine Le Pen talking about Donald Trump on French radio Wednesday.
I fully understand Giorgia Meloni's reaction, which was driven by national pride.
Do you think Donald Trump is not a real friend?
We don't have friends in international affairs. Let me remind you, this has always been obvious. We have interests.
This is coming from somebody who, 2 presidential elections ago, was going to New York at the Trump Tower trying to grab the attention of Donald Trump. At that time, Marine Le Pen was courting Donald Trump. Now it has completely changed. Again, the wind has blown in a new direction.
So the question for you, Richard, is will voters next year here in France remember her pacing in the lobby of Trump Tower?
I would be cautious because it all depends on the election in the US, if Trump wins or lose the midterm, because a Trump winner would be a completely different thing that a Trump loser after the midterm. That would be my first remark. Secondly, we didn't say it since the beginning of this program, but don't forget one obvious thing. Giorgia Meloni is a woman. And Trump has a problem with women leaders. He has this masculinist kind of ideology with the MMA tournament in the White House. So whenever he deals with women leader, remember that he could not stand Angela Merkel during his first mandate.
Invited Meloni to his inauguration.
Well, at that time, he thought Meloni would be the kind of doll that would obey him in all means, and she's not obeying, and she's a woman. So for him, it's absolutely unacceptable.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. We'll, of course, continue to follow it. Fascinating stuff. Richard Valli, I want to thank you. I want to thank Pietro Forti for being with us from Rome. Anna Bonalume, thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.